The Nose. The Nose is a 40-line, 4-stanza poem written by Coleridge in 1789, when he was 17 years old. The poem is about Coleridge experiencing either an intense spiritual experience related to possession, or the symptoms of angina, a symptom of coronary heart disease, or both, depending on how deep one wishes to explore the poem. Speaker in this piece is experiencing heat and cold sensations, suffering from breathlessness, a tight chest, and symptoms of angina. Additionally, the speaker's nose is inflamed, feeling which precedes a nosebleed. These are symptoms of extreme spiritual experience, yet some say Coleridge had but a severe cold. Whether this is accurate or not is open to reading letters from Coleridge's time to cross-reference this accuracy. Fortunately, I do not have access to Coleridge's letters, but a student can dream. The aforementioned paragraph is referenced by allaboutheaven.org, so it may have a Christian bias inherently developed within. Therefore, keep the mind open and attentive, looking for connections to both the bias and away from it. This is what a responsibly critical thinker, writer, and reader must do with every observation. So there are scattered and hidden analyses online on this poem, but for the most part the only applicable analysis will be the heaven.org analysis, as that is the only one with background information. For example, the describing of angina and the symptoms of Coleridge at the time. This entire summary has been produced from my imagination and analyzing. It does not have any supporting evidence. This poem is about Coleridge comparing his nose and his sickness to various and many devil-ridden tactics on earth. This poem is in fact littered with references to Satan, devilish figures, and death itself. Ye souls unused to lofty verse, who sweep the earth with lowly wing, like sand before the blast disperse, a nose, a mighty nose I sing. As erst Prometheus stole from heaven the fire to animate the wonder of his hand, thus with unhallowed hands, O Muse, aspire, and from my subjects snatch a burning brand. So like the nose I sing, my verse shall glow, like Phlegethon my verse in waves of fire shall flow. Light of this once all darksome spot, where now their glad course mortals run, firstborn of Sirius begot upon the focus of the sun. I'll call thee, for such thy earthly name, what name so high but what too low must be. Comets, when most they drink the solar flame, are but faint types of images of thee. Burn madly fire, over earth and ravage run, then blush for shame more red by fiercer, outdone. I saw when from the turtle feast the thick dark smoke in volumes rose. I saw the darkness of the mist encircle thee, O nose. Shorn of thy rays thou shot'st a fearful gleam, the turtle quivered with prophetic fright, gloomy and sullen through the night of steam. So Satan's nose, when Dunstan urged to flight, glowing from gripe of red-hot pincers dread, thwart the spokes of hell disastrous twilight shed. The Furies to madness my brain devote, in robes of ice my body wrap, on billowy flames of fire I float, hear ye me entrails how they snap. Some power unseen forbids my lungs to breathe, but fire-clad meteors round me whizzing fly. I vitrify thy torrid zone beneath, proboscis fierce, I am calcined, I die. Thus, like late Pliny in Vesuvius's fire, I perish in the blaze, while I the blaze admire. Detailed analysis. Stanza 1. Believe that Coleridge is asking or demanding his muse, his personified source of poetic creative energy, to create some sort of inspiration or aspire for wise inspiration through his angina sickness, apparent by his singing and glowing nose, singing being sniffing, blowing, sneezing, and glowing being tender and inflamed with redness. Coleridge also says that he will create verse through his sickness, as, like Phlegethon, my verse in waves of fire shall flow, states. That verse being his verse, those waves of fire being words spoken from and influenced by the nasally speech of Coleridge's cold, and the flowing being the rhyming scheme of the verse he asks his muse to inspire him to create. Halfway in the first stanza, Coleridge implores his muse to take inspiration from Prometheus, to snatch the burning brand from his hands in hopes of inspiring Coleridge's sought-out verse. Prometheus is credited with defying the gods to give humanity fire, and therefore light and safety. It would seem Coleridge is asking for the same inspiration, to create a verse through pain and sickness, as Prometheus felt pain and sickness seeing humans run around in the dark, that is creating of light and safety to humanity. Thus Coleridge begins this stanza and poem by speaking to those who are unused to lofty verse. The aforementioned point of him trying to create poetic fire and light and safety through his sickness to inspire and warm the suffering citizens is further solidified. Lines 1 to 4, Coleridge says, "You people who are not accustomed to listening to poetry of such moral heights, lofty verse, who walk this planet with low status and low importance and a humble nature, lowly wing, disperse and leave my presence as the sand does just before a cannon blast would impact, like sand before the blandest spurs. Leave my presence, for I am about to sneeze. A mighty nose I sing." In lines 5 to 8, Coleridge says, "As long ago, erst, Prometheus defied the gods and brought man fire, showing what Prometheus was capable of for man, animating the wonders of his hand. My poetic inspiration, O Muse, direct your hopes and ambitions towards the same, aspire, regardless of the fact that you currently are sick and seem unholy and wicked on hollowed hands. Seek the mental torch from Prometheus and borrow the same inspiration Prometheus had at his moment of delivery, and I will spread it. From my subjects snatch a burning brand." And the first stanza, in lines 9 and 10, Coleridge says, "My created poem, like the nose I'm blowing, will make sound people will hear, like the nose I sing. And additionally, my poem will radiate with wisdom and knowledge, as a river of fire does with light, my verse shall glow. The sounds of my poem will inspire the people as Prometheus's fire did, spreading light and knowledge, waves of fire shall flow. My muse will search for that power to make my poem, my verse, do the same, burning brighter than a literal river of flowing fire, Phlegethon, river of fire in the underworld of Greek mythology." Stanza 2. I believe Coleridge is saying, "The light of this once dark area where men and women happily move around, Earth, the firstborn child of the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, aka the burning or flaming star, most likely a reference to Lucifer as the knowledge seeker, name so high, but name also so low now, is what gave birth to and brought about the sun, the largest fire, creator of life and focal point of earthly philosophy. I will call that child Lucifer, for that is your name on earth. A name that is praised so much as you were an angel, but is evidently not worthy of you any more as you reside in hell. The most similar object to you would be a comet, most similar to you when it flies past the sun, burning and flying, but still barely a descriptor for what you are and how you look. Burn your fires brightly, cause severe and extensive damage on earth, but you will be shy and shameful in appearance in comparison to the fierce redness of the star Sirius, which burned red in antiquity." In lines 11 to 16, Coleridge says, "The light on earth, the light of this once all darksome spot, which lights up and warms everything so that people may live and move, their glad course mortals run, was birthed by the firstborn child of the brightest star in the sky, firstborn begot, Sirius, aka the burning or flaming star. That child of Sirius, the burning star, who does focus upon the fire, heat, and destruction of the sun, I will call Lucifer, for that is that child's earthly name. As you were God's second in command, or the child of the brightest burning star in the Christian religion, a name previously held in high regard in heaven, but which is now worth little to nothing as you attempted to conquer God's kingdom." In lines 17 to 20, Coleridge says, "Comets, a many destructive, flying and flaming piece of rock, is what is the most similar to you, Lucifer, especially so when they become torched and on fire by the heat of the sun, drink the solar flame. But these are but tiny snippets of what you truly are, a flaming star, as those comets burn fire hard and fast, madly, and ravage the earth with destruction. You will blush from the fierce redness of the star Sirius, a red dwarf in antiquity, against your own fires on earth. Stanza 3. So in stanza 3, I believe Coleridge is saying, I saw the smoke of fire rise during a period of an elite dining event where social bonds are formed. I saw that smoke come and surround you, nose. My nose being cut off from the rays of sunlight made me feel sick and made my nose more redder through the steam of this meal and this gloomy and sullen night. The turtle quivered with fright, knowing he may or may not be eaten, just as Satan's nose smoked and burned when he tried to influence St. Dunstan. Satan's nose glowed red. Lines 20 to 24, Coleridge says, I saw and felt during an elite feast that formed social bonds, turtle feast, plumes of thick and dark smoke rising from the area, thick dark smoke in volumes rose. I saw and felt the smoke from that event that surrounded you, my nose, darkness of the mist encircle you, oh nose. I believe that Coleridge in these lines is saying the goings-on of high society are highly noticeable and known to be dangerous, and I feel them sicken me further and tempt me in my sickness. Lines 25 to 27, Coleridge says, To be broken from the rays of sun, shorn from thy rays, cause my nose to redden, shots to fearful gleam. The turtle saw me get sicker and panicked with fright, quivered with fright, possibly knowing that this meant I was going to eat him, further expanding my social bonds within high society during the long and dark night surrounded by the steam of this meal, gloomy and sullen through the night. To end the third stanza, in lines 27 to 30, Coleridge says, referring to his nose that has been further reddened, just as the nose of Satan burned when he tried to provoke St. Dunstan, Satan's nose in turn did glow red from the pincers of Dunstan, as mine do from the smoke of this high society meal, while the nostrils of Satan burned, twilight, a period of obscurity, decline, or ambiguity, rose. Finally, we have stanza 4. So in stanza 4, I believe that Coleridge, in the final stanza, is saying, The underworld goddesses of vengeance, the Furies, make me only think about and feel madness or craziness, madness my brain devote, and at the same time they wrap my body in an encircling uniform of coldness, and robes of ice my body wrap, and make me feel as if I am rolling on great surging or swelling, billowing, waves of fire inside my body, flames I float. Do you not hear my intestines and organs snapping or popping from the heat as logs do in a fire? Hear ye my entrails how they snap? Some inconceivable powers making it difficult to breathe. I can feel Satan moving and influencing my environment negatively. Fire-clad meteors around me whizzing fly. Remember the aforementioned idea of Satan's closest relative on earth being a meteor of fire. I cry out that I will convert hell into a very hot and dry or dangerous and tribulating zone, torrid, of glass, vitrify. My long and mobile nose, proboscis, that displays power, intensity, destruction, or aggressiveness, fierce. I am roasted and exposed to the strong heat, calcined, that kills me, I die. And so like the great Gaius Plinius Secundus, Pliny the Elder, who perished trying to save his friends and family from the hot ash of Mount Vesuvius, I die from the heat my body feels in its sickness, just as Pliny died from the very explosion that he most likely was watching with admiration. I will die from the fire inside of me that is so persistent. In lines 31 to 40, Coleridge says, The chthonic underworld, deities of vengeance and personified curses, the Furies, have based my thoughts around severe mental illness, madness. They surround my mortal body with what feels like clothing made of ice my body wrap. I feel as though I'm floating on waves of fire, billowy flames of fire I float. Do you hear my intestines and insides snapping and popping as an animal's would over a roasting fire pit? Hear ye my entrails snap. Now some unseen force is hindering my ability to breathe, forbids my lungs to breathe. What causes and cousins of Satan I see all around me, fire-clad meteors whizzing fly. I curse your zone of habitation by altering hell's landscape to glass from all the heat surrounding it, vitrify thy torrid zone. Feel as though I'm being roasted and exposed to a strong heat that is killing me. I am calcined, I die. And so, like Pliny the Elder, who died trying to save his family from the heat and flame of Vesuvius, I perish in the heat and flame I feel while trying to save the people around me with my verse. Perish in the blaze while I the blaze admire. Revised summary. From the explanations I have given, we can demonstrate that 1. Coleridge wanted his muse to seek out verse through his sickness as Prometheus did. 2. Coleridge speaks about Lucifer and his resemblances on earth. 3. Coleridge speaks about the influence of the devil on earth. And 4. Coleridge speaks about the forces of the underworld that taunt and surround Coleridge as he perishes. All of this while reflecting and associating on his reddened nose and on the sickened state of his body and mind. I can firmly dictate that Coleridge was in fact occupied with a sickness, most likely angina, while searching for poetic ideas. The inclusion of Sirius B, the firstborn child of the brightest light, Prometheus, Satan, and the Furies, to express the fact that he believes he is being played with by a devil of some kind. This creates a solidification behind my previous summary made evident by the inclusion of St. Dunstan burning the devil's nose, as well as of the earthly comparison of the destructive forces of Satan being closely related to a fire-clad meteor. Additionally, as Coleridge includes the Furies, or the underworld goddesses of vengeance and personified curses, making him ill, as well as Satan's fire-clad meteors flying past and influencing the sick and passive Coleridge as he lies down, we can decipher additional references to the underworld, or hell, in Coleridge's poem that is supposedly about a sickness, or specifically his nose. We can see that Coleridge connects his physical symptoms of sickness to that of a spiritual experience or possession, the Furies wrapping him in ice and making him feel heat, and claiming that his verse flows over a river of fire, for example. These claims reinforce the idea of a poem being about something spiritual while maintaining to the non-perceptive eye a tale of merely a cold.